Shi, Dunhuang Emperor of the Tang Dynasty, is preparing to receive a group of envoys from remote vassal states at Linda Hall. It was 793 AD, 175 years after the founding of the Tang Dynasty. When Li Shi ascended the throne, the once powerful empire had begun to decline in spite of its seeming prosperity. As the 12th emperor of the dynasty, Li Shi is concerned about the future of the empire. But today is different. One of the envoys are from a vassal state ruled by women. But what sort of kingdom is it? The Dunhuang Emperor is curious to find out. After 1,200 years, today's people, born of the same curiosity, are looking for traces of evidence in the hopes of rediscovering this mysterious kingdom of women. Shanhai Jing, or literally Classic of Mountains and Seas, China's oldest book of geography, depicts many bizarre places. In its first chapter, Classic of Regions Beyond the Seas, South, there is an account of two women living in a place surrounded by a moat. This might be an early reference to women. Due to the mystical nature of the book, the kingdom of women it depicts is no more than an illusory place. But is such a kingdom a legend? Did it actually exist? Intrigued by the mystery of the kingdom, many of today's experts and scholars begin to look into its obscure history.
我觉得我们有必要把这个历史的真相把它弄清楚，然后在这个基础上呢，把这个文化呢介绍给大家，让大家更明白的认识这么一种文化在我们国家的历史中是存在的。
应该是属于学术资料、历史资料，对人类自身的社会发展的研究有重要的意义。
A country called Eastern Women Kingdom can be found in many historical records of the Sui and Tang dynasties. What kind of kingdom is it, and does it have anything to do with the kingdom of women? Where women are elected queen is a common description in historical documents about the Eastern Women Kingdom. So it means that the queendom was ruled by women and that the women there were superior to men. One is reminded of one of the most celebrated women in history.
基础的特点就是女人掌权，这个地方所有的官呐，所有的这个管理，所有的权力者，都是女人啊。这个它是一个母系社会的遗留下来的一种文化习俗。
The once illusory kingdom is now starting to seem as if it existed after all. Records can be found in the older Book of Tang about its geographic location, customs, architectural features, as well as its relations with the Tang regime. But are such descriptions reliable? The Old Book of the Tang covers the 289-year history of China under the Tang dynasty. Shi Tang, the notorious puppet ruler of the later Jin dynasty, was the force behind the compiling of the book. This was one of the few achievements in his much despised political life. In 941 AD, the compilation of the book began. 4 years later, the 200-volume book was completed. Since it is an officially sanctioned history compiled shortly after the demise of the Tang dynasty, the facts in it are seen as reliable and of historical value. Through it, we can infer that the kingdom of women it depicts did exist in history, and that the kingdom enjoyed close relations with the regime.
我们看一下这个唐书的记载就知道了，东夷国的国王是曾经是多次，在唐代的时候，在武德就是唐高祖武德年间就开始进行朝贡，就进行跟王朝联系。
Where was the kingdom of women during the Tang dynasty? According to records found in the Old Book of Tang, people speculate that it was located at the east of the Qinghai Tibetan Plateau, and that its sphere of influence covered an area of several counties in Sichuan province.
东夷国的位置应该在今天就是大渡河上游这个区域一带，而且应该和这个嘉荣，就是今天嘉荣分布那个区域有很大的这个重合。
Mount Morador is one of the 4 sacred mountains in Tibetan inhabited areas. Its highest peak is located in the upper reaches of the Dardu River. The Tibetans living in its vicinity are called Gyarong Tibetans. They are mainly found in Ganze and Aiba, autonomous prefectures of Sichuan province. The area is assumed to a large extent coincide with the territory of the Kingdom of Women. Can we find some traces of the Kingdom of Women there?
实际上，它这个就是说东夷国描写的它这个地形呢，也很像南巴的那个地形。
东夷国的核心应该是在金川丹巴一带。
现在四川丹巴这个以碉楼为这个一种特征的一个文化区域。
Dunbar County in Sichuan Province is a small place covering only 5,649 square kilometers. Yet it has been closely connected with the mysterious Kingdom of Women. Although the kingdom has been lost for thousands of years, people today search for any traces of its existence. A story from Dunhuang adds to the allure of this mysterious. Dunhuang proved very transformative for the US-based Chinese artist Cao Yong. In 1983, soon after his graduation, Cao came to Tibet. Amazed at the cave frescoes of the Guge Kingdom, he spent 7 years there, living a solitary existence, copying and drawing inspiration from the frescoes. Thanks to 7 years of solitude, Cao Yong's artistic style is imbued with a transcendental verve. His life has been like a leaf floating in the wind.
房子你可以买，但是不等于你就拥有家；女人你可以找，不等于你就拥有一个家。真正是，我觉得还是得有你真正心里面能感受到的一种爱情。没有了这些东西，还是飘的。
In 2004, artistically stifled, Cao Yong traveled to southwest China again, looking for new inspiration. Danba was originally a brief stop on his itinerary, but something occurred there that changed his life forever.
一天的天气也非常的好，你一下觉得就是整个就像是到了一个天国的那种感觉，就是给你心里面非常的那种清澈而又透亮的那种感觉。我那个时候我非常激动。
The place where Cao saw the light was Jiajuzang village of Dunhuang County, a serene village that went at its own pace, out of step with the world around it. Hidden between the Kapama peaks and the Dajin River, the village is home to many Gayarong Tibetans. Their fairy tale-like houses conjure the image of the mysterious kingdom of women in the Tang dynasty. But to Cao Yong, it is also a place of unexpected romance.
真漂亮，真漂亮！这真是叫香格里拉没有错呀。
好，各位大师辛苦了。
哎，你好。
好，请坐，请坐。
当时我一进去就很奇怪，就在那个很惊奇，就在那个一堆表演的女孩子那里，有一张很熟悉的脸。这个东西它是就像是一种天定的一样的东西，你不过是来领起老天早就给你安排的这一份儿。
不要不好意思，大家都说你很漂亮，唱的歌也唱得那么好听。
远方的朋友，请到家中来，请你上西莫的赞吧。
听他唱完了2首歌，我的直觉就是觉得，我也就脱口而出了，我说你知道不知道，你是我的女人。当时没有想到他的回答也让我很吃惊，他说是的。
Cao Yong was deeply touched by Dunhuang County and this outspoken girl after only such a brief encounter.
只是在见到他的刹那之间，我觉得曾经相识，而且就是再也没有办法移开这个自己的这种，你说是情感也好，这种心境也好。
What were the qualities in Vam that impressed and intrigued Cao so much? Was it her beautiful face, graceful dancing and sweet singing?
我觉得他在他的身上，我能感受到一个人之间的这种真诚，我能感觉到这种咱们久违的一种朴实。
我就不敢相信还有这么漂亮的地方，有意思，你这太可爱了，你这可爱到我就觉得走不了的地步，
以后就
到时候我就变成你这个寨子安音扎寨了。
Due to his travel plans, Cao had to leave, but his heart remained. What would happen after his brief encounter with Ram? Cao was amazed that there were so many beautiful girls in Dunhuang, a place that had been dubbed Bell Valley. The earliest records about Dunhuang County date back to the Qin and Han dynasties some 2,000 years ago. At that that time, it was the territory of the Xichang tribes. Similarly, the Eastern Women Kingdom is part of the Xichang tribe lineage. That's according to the Old Book of Tongue. This might have explained the geographical and genealogical connections between Dunbar and the legendary Kingdom of Women. It's possible that genes from the ancient kingdom can be found in the women who reside in this region. Most people living in Dunbar regard themselves as the descendants of the found the silver flower of 2010. Now she studies at a university in Chengdu and only comes back during vacations. Liu Ying's mother, Liu Amu, was also known for her beauty and was selected as Kambar flower in 2000. Beauty seems to be a rather common feature of Rum's extended family.
Yeah. 这边美女也不是所谓的就长得好看就是美女呀，就我们这边的美女一般都是很勤快的、很勤劳，而且很能歌善舞。
In 1987, archaeologists unearthed near Dunbar County a traditional burial method known as sarcophagus burial. This is common among some southwestern ethnic minorities. A large number of human bones were unearthed. Analysis of these 1,000-year-old bones revealed a surprising finding: that the average height of men here already reached 180, with women not far behind at 170 centimeters. In such a remote canyon in the Wudang Mountains, what is the magic that has endowed the women here with such outstanding qualities? Geographically speaking, the major and minor Jinchuan rivers converge here to form the Dadu River. Many ethnic groups migrated and settled along the river, making Dunbar a center of ethnic fusion. It is probably due to this mix of ethnicities that led to certain genetic advantages, hence the title of Bell Valley.
Dunbar 这个地方，这就是一个大渡河，这是一条民族通道。那么这个通道里边的话，很多的古代民族进行迁徙或者是这个进行融合以后，我们知道杂交优势，生物学人家呢，那么这个地方的人种，都说是康巴人种比较优秀。
Perhaps it was the qualities inherited from her ancestors that made Rum so attractive to Cao Yong at the first sight. Is she a descendant of women? What's waiting for Cao and Rum, two people living thousands of miles away from one another after such a short, though sweet encounter? Cao went back to the US 1 week after he left Dunbar. The intense work there should have tempered his emotions, but the truth was that he ended up missing her even more. He then came to an astonishing decision.
说堕入情网，他可能不可自拔，这些词在这个时候用在这上面，我觉得就不需要拔了，干脆就去干吧。我就把展览什么的都丢掉了，我就跑回来了。
This is Cao Yong and his family in 2011. Cao, his wife Ram and their 2 lovely daughters. Now he is reaping happiness from their exceptional romance. After spending 20 years overseas, Cao eventually came back home and opened his gallery in China. Everything began with the alleged center of the kingdom of women, Dunhuang, the beautiful girl from Dunhuang.
我觉得世界对我来讲依然浩瀚无际，想去看的、想去知道的、想去感受的东西，实实在在挡不住。但是有这个家，会让你心里面的非常的感觉到有一种幸福的稳定感。
Today, one of Cao's jokes in 2004 is becoming reality. He said he would come and live here in the Kingdom of Women. Now, this new house is almost done and will soon become one of Cao's painting studios. This is the charm of Dunbar and its women. Just like the lost Kingdom of Women, Dunbar has been a magnet for many. However, does the inherited beauty among Dunbar women support the hypothesis that Dunbar used to be part of the ancient kingdom? Based on the kingdom's sphere of influence, it can be inferred that Dunbar County may be the center of the kingdom. A 15-character account about it in the Old Book of Tongue only added to its mystery. According to historical descriptions, the Queen's residence was located in a place called Kangyangchuan. A river named Wo Shui traversed the area on a southerly course. Where are Kangyangchuan and the river named Wo Shui?
康永川这个学术界有几种意见，有的认为是昌都，昌都那个南昌江那个河，也有人认为是在川西高原，因为挨着弱水。
The Dadu River was called Wo Shui in the Tang Dynasty, and it does flow south from this point on. Geographically, it coincides with the account in the Old Book of Tongue. However, throughout all written records, Dunbar has never been called Kangyangchuan. This withstanding, some scholars insist that it should be considered the center of the Kingdom of Women. So what are their reasons?
这个地方具备了史书所记载的各种因素，从它的地理位置到它的一些。
Their significant other begins in a very special way. The boys can only sit in the corridor with their heads covered. They are supposed to sing songs to attract the attention of the girls. The girls would listen to the songs and choose based on the one that appealed to them. Upon request. Then, round the hearth, they will dance together to showcase their dancing technique and spirit. At the end of the dance, a boy can extend an invitation to the girl that he wants to date. The female is in control during the entire process. It is said that such ways of courtship were once part of the marriage practice in the Kingdom of Women. However, no such historical records can confirm this, and is now just seen as a beautiful remembrance of times gone by. Really connects Danba with the Kingdom of Women are these special structures called Diaolo Towers, scattered throughout the valley. They were used as watchtowers or blockhouses in ancient times. With a total of 343 ancient Diaolo Towers, Danba is also known as the Kingdom of 1,000 Towers. Owners of these towers are mainly Tibetans. Today, only a very few families still own their own Diaolo Towers. To them, the tower represents a family's history. The Wudang family is very proud of their Diaolo Tower. It's the oldest one of its kind in the neighborhood. In order to better preserve the tower, they moved away from here 10 years ago. History and stories related to the tower down for generations in their local language.
古代的话，好像几乎每家都有一座碉楼，每座古碉旁边也有这样一个小楼，是连在一起，有碉有楼，就是一个完整的碉楼。
Besides Danba County, such towers can also be found in the Dardu River Valley, in the upper reaches of the Minjiang River. They are scattered in an area that coincides with the sphere of influence of the Kingdom of Women, which was mentioned in the old Book of Tongue. Is this mere coincidence or a confirmation of the facts?
考古学来讲，它这个应该是这个一个非常有密切关联的，这个应该是东女国的一个特征，它范围的一个特征。
The old Book of Tongue seems to have provided some clues. There they live in storied houses. The residence of the Queen is of 9 stories, while those of civilians are 6 stories. So are these storied houses the Diaolo Towers that we see today?
「它称为重楼，肯定是有别于这种建筑。那么在这个地区，唯一区别于这种建筑的建筑形式，就只有碉楼。
But who were the builders of the towers? Were they citizens of the Kingdom of Women? Is there reliable evidence to connect the two structures as being the same thing? In order to find out the answer, people needed to first determine a date when the towers were built to see if they were built during the time of the kingdom. This is an abandoned tower in Zhonglu Township. Archaeologists found a large number of butyl mules inside it. These mules, painted with a subtleness, seem to recount stories from a distant past. Are these stories about the Kingdom of Women? Carbon dating shows that they were only made in the Ming dynasty.
那么根据我们的这个常识就判断，这个墙壁上要画壁画，它一定是和这个碉楼同时或者晚于碉楼，所以说可以确定这栋碉楼是明代以前的。
This Diaolo Tower is the oldest known building in Danba County. Others were mostly built during the Ming and Qing dynasties. In other words, the Danba towers we see today came into existence several centuries later than the period of the Kingdom of Women. So can we conclude the Diaolo Tower is not the so-called storied building? A line from Book of the Later Han seems to have answered this question.
史书的记载来看，它是在东汉那个《后汉书》记载岷江上游这个冉芒部落的时候，他就讲到这个垒丝为石，高10余丈，曰穹隆。这个就是有关碉楼的最早的记载。
Therefore, history of the Diaolo Tower began in the Eastern Han Dynasty. That's between 25 AD and 220 AD, and lasted until the Qing Dynasty, 1616 AD to 1911, in this region. Those towers built during the period of the Kingdom of Women may have just disintegrated over time. Historical records provide a vague picture of the Kingdom of Women, where the women hold all the positions of power and men are only meant for military service and labor. Because most of the records that detail its existence appeared during the Sui and Tang dynasties, people infer that the kingdom may have enjoyed great prosperity during that period. At that time, the rest of China had already entered an era of male domination and female subordination. The existence of such a matriarchal kingdom must have been under threat by surrounding patriarchal powers, that it was situated in a land of barbarians. Did such a kingdom rely on to survive a world full of tribal conflicts governed by the law of the jungle? Could the Diaolo Towers have been of any help?
最早可能应该是一种和信仰和祭祀有关的一个建筑，但是后来这个建筑，因为它确实是一个比较好的防御的那么一个体。
Today, we can still find openings on all sides of the Diaolo Towers that allow for a bird's-eye view of the surroundings. This meant that they were used for defense. In an area of simple weaponry, the Diaolo Tower may have served as an impregnable military defense. In case of invasions, people could enter the tower and fire on the attackers through the openings, annihilating the enemies who had to inch their way forward over the surrounding narrow paths. Probably thanks to such difficult geographical terrain and the fortress like Diaolo Towers, the Kingdom of Women managed to protect itself from outside invasions. Such conjecture has its basis in history. It's supported by the accounts of the famous Jinchuan battles during the Qing dynasty. Between 1747 and 1776, Emperor Qianlong waged 2 battles to quell the rebellion by the Jinchuan chieftains. Much to his surprise, the elite troops he sent paid a heavy price for victory. This painting, held by the Palace Museum, is a depiction of the fierce Jinchuan battles. In the first battle, the Qing court sent 75,000 troops, expecting an easy win over the rebels. The imperial troops suffered heavy losses, with both its commander and major general killed in the battle. After the defeat, the emperor sent over 200,000 elite troops, along with artillery. After 6 years, the revolt was eventually quelled, but 25,000 Qing soldiers had to inflict such heavy casualties on the Qing army. The Diaolo Towers are easy to defend and hard to attack. As historical records state, a tower guarded by but a dozen people can stop 10,000 troops from getting through, making such a fortress almost impenetrable.
防卫是一个很主要的生存的一个条件，因此在丹巴这个地区，甚至在整个这个雨国地区，它也建很多碉楼。
Diaolo Tower in Dunbar County today is nearly 60 meters. It is said that in its heyday, almost every family owned a tower. How could a family undertake such a huge construction project? In the villages of Dunbar County, there is an old tradition. If a family is going to build a new house, every other family in the village will send people to help out. After a hard day's work, host family will treat the volunteers with homemade liquor and a simple dinner. Such a tradition made it possible for each family to own their respective Diaolo tower. The Diaolo towers are not only tough fortresses, they are also works of architectural art. Apart from the generic tetragonal ones, there are pentagonal towers, octagonal towers, and even very rare tridecagonal towers. The more corners they have will add to the complexity of the construction that is required. The number of corners also symbolizes the wealth and power of the owner.
就是比较重要的土司官寨的那种雕，都是8角的。这个一般老百姓的那个和房屋相连的雕，大部分是4角的，就是一般角的这个多少应该和这个雕的地位，雕的主人的这个权利这些有关系。
The Gayarong Tibetans here pass down their history through a folkloric tradition. These are the ruins of a Diaolo tower in Swap Ho village, Dunbar County. There is a legend about the tower in which women play a vital role. According to legend, this area belongs to chieftain Ling Jiabu during the Ming dynasty. Thanks to years of favorable weather and his good governance, the chieftain's fortune and fame grew to an unprecedented level. Every day he racked his brain trying to come up with a way to commemorate his power and wealth so that the future generations would remember his name forever. One day, he got the bright idea to build a tridecagonal Diaolo tower which no one had ever owned, as 13 is regarded as the most auspicious number in his tribe. The chieftain sent his men to look for master craftsmen to begin construction. To his great disappointment, none of those prominent craftsmen he found knew how to build a tridecagonal tower. Chieftain was infuriated and frustrated. The helpless chieftain could only resort to the gods for help, in the hopes that they could help him realize his dream. Perhaps the gods were moved by his determination, and all of a sudden, young lady in the village, Dunhuang, drew 2 concentric circles. Then she divides the 2 circles into 13 equal segments with wooden poles, each division point marked with an erected pole. Lastly, she passed the wool yarn between the 26 intersection points to sketch out the 13 external angles and the 13 internal angles. Thus, a master plan for the tower was readied. With this blueprint, the artisans completed the miraculous tri-decagonal tower in only a few months. An obscure Danbar woman eventually solved this challenge, which stumped all the other craftsmen. Some attribute this to her superior wisdom as witnessed in the Kingdom of Women. Such a wisdom which helped the women here rule the kingdom for centuries. Who invented the Diaolo Tower? Why are the towers only found in the Minjiang River Valley and the upper reaches of the Dadu rivers? Can archaeological research shed some light on who came up with the concept of the towers? In 1987, archaeologists found a unique burial method, sarcophagus burial, in Zhonglu Township in Danbar County. The dead are placed in slate coffins for inhumation burial. Most of the sarcophaguses in Sichuan province are found in the upper reaches of the Minjiang River, the Qingyi River Valley, and Ganzi Prefecture. Such distribution of sarcophaguses coincides with the distribution of the Diaolo Towers. Is there a relationship between the two? Research about the sarcophagus burial shows that starting from the late Neolithic period, people here had been adept at stone building. The technique of building a sarcophagus is quite similar to that of building a Diaolo Tower. Were the people of this period also the inventors of the Diaolo Tower? An archaeological discovery in 1988 gave a positive answer to this question. The ruins of a prehistoric human habitation were excavated in Zhonglu Township. A new form of stone building was discovered here. It is an intermediate architectural form between that of the sarcophagus and the Diaolo Tower.
这个遗址的开间都很小，和现在碉楼的每一个开间和碉楼的这个开间的面积是相差无几。那么它的这个年代，根据地层上来看，都是在这个5000年以前。所以说，我认为这个是碉楼的前身。
Based on the discoveries of the sarcophagus burial and the Zhonglu ruins, people formulated a hypothesis that at least 5,000 years ago, there were people inhabiting this area. They gradually learned to build houses and tombs with rocks that can be found everywhere in the surrounding mountains. With the passage of time, their stone construction techniques became more advanced. Eventually, well-developed local architectural form of the Diaolo Tower. the protection of these towering structures that the Kingdom of Women managed to survive amidst a patriarchal world. The towers, standing in the valleys for thousands of years, have witnessed the vicissitudes of people living in this land. In comparison, the legendary Kingdom of Women is but a blink of the eye in terms of human history. Are the ancient ruins on the 3,000-meter cliff the remains of the Kingdom of Women? How did its queen rule over much stronger men? What were daily life as well as family life like in such a kingdom? Please stay tuned to continue exploring the mystery of the Kingdom of Women.